Good evening, everyone. I'll call this Committee of Adjustment hearing to order. Before we get started this evening, I'm just going to go through the committee's protocol for tonight's hearings. Tonight we have 10 applications for 4 different properties that we'll be hearing. And the following will be the kind of the protocol we're going to go through. Just a couple of housekeeping rules before we start. If you can please turn. And if anyone is coming up to address the committee or have any questions, if you'd please address the questions through the chair and not directly to the person being asked the question. So the first order of business will be to ask any members on the committee who have any conflicts of interest with any of the applications this evening. Following that, we'll ask for any requests of deferrals or withdrawals of applications that are on the agenda. And then we will get into the actual applications. The committee's secretary-treasurer will read out each application noted on the agenda with a brief description and a staff recommendation, and we'll do them per property, so some might have multiples. The applicant or the agent for the applicant will be asked to come forward. There's a little podium on my right, your left. You can introduce yourself and be allotted a short overview to add any additional comments that you wish to at that time. Members of the committee will then have the opportunity to ask any questions that they have of the applicant or the agent, followed by members of the public that wish to speak to the application. Any members of the public that wish to speak to an application will be asked to come forward. Again, that same podium on my right, your left. State your name and address for the record. Try to limit your comments to 10 minutes and must present all questions or comments that are pertinent to the application in that time frame. Persons making a presentation may not necessarily be allowed to return again to speak to the same application. Following all comments, the applicant will be afforded some closing comments if they desire. The committee will then present a decision in the form of a motion. The motion will be discussed and voted upon. If a vote is tied, a motion will be defeated and a new motion will be made. If motions are defeated, new motions will be made until a decision has been reached. Notices of decision will only be provided to those persons that leave their name and address in writing with the Secretary-Treasurer, and there's a sign-in page at the back of the room for that purpose. And for any persons viewing online, they can email Taya at taya.tarabel, T-A-R-A-B-A, no L, sorry, it's okay, at portcolborne.ca, or you can call 905-228-8124 immediately following the meeting and leave a message requesting the same. So that's the protocol for this evening. I'll ask if there's any conflicts this evening with any of the applications of the members. Not seeing any. Is there any requests for deferrals of applications this evening or withdrawals? Not seeing any. So with that, Madam Secretary, the first application, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the agenda tonight, we have 6 minor variance applications and 4 consent applications. Notice of the applications were circulated to the public on November 27th. The required agencies received notice of the applications on November 12th. A recommendation report for each application was prepared by planning staff and made publicly available on December 6th. All correspondence received by December 6th were addressed in the recommendation reports. Those interested can view the recommendation reports online on the city's website or in person at City Hall. Those interested may also contact planning staff in person, by email, or over the phone to obtain a copy of the reports. Accommodations for alternative methods of viewing or obtaining the recommendation reports are available upon request. Please note that the zoning bylaw currently in effect is the City of Port Colborne's zoning bylaw 6575/30/18 as amended, which will henceforth be referred to as the zoning bylaw. Please also note that there were a few minor typos made to several of the items concerning applications A2924PC and A3024PC. An addendum package was uploaded this afternoon to rectify any errors with the agenda documentation. Our first application tonight is minor variance application A1924PC for the lands municipally known as 465 Davis Street, located in the second density residential zone as established in the zoning bylaw. The owner, Richard Pare, is requesting relief from the provisions of the zoning bylaw to permit an addition to the existing garage, notwithstanding the following: that a maximum accessory lot coverage of 26% be permitted on a lot with municipal services where a maximum of 10% is allowed, and that a minimum setback of 0.55 meters be permitted for an interior side or rear lot line to an accessory structure where a minimum of 1 meter is required. Given the information in the recommendation report, planning staff recommend application A1924PC be granted. As the application is minor in nature, it is appropriate for the development of the site, is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, and desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan. That concludes the correspondence for this application.
Thank you. Is the agent or the applicant here for the agent this evening? Can you please come up to the right here, your left? Just on the podium, just under the monitor there. And there's a gray bar in the front, and there should be a red button that'll turn on the microphone.
Name's Rick Perry. I'm just here asking permission for expansion of my existing garage on 465 Davis.
Very good, thank you. Is there any questions of the applicant this evening? Not seeing any. The only question I have, in visiting the site on the weekend, it appears that your property seems to be a little bit higher than the one to the north, the little mini mall that's there. What's your plan for drainage with regards to making sure it stays on your property as opposed to running into the parking lot?
I have an existing, what you would call it?
Like a catch basin? Or?
No, it's a weeping tile
Okay.
around the existing garage. And I was going to tie the new garage into that one and then run it forward.
Okay. Because that was really my only concern. I noticed that you're like quite a bit higher than the property, like the parking lot beside it. Mm-hmm. And you're going to be pretty close to the fence line. So I was just wanted to make sure that there were no issues with the drainage. That's the only question I have. Any questions? Yeah, just before you do that, is there any members of the public that wish to speak to this application this evening? Not seeing any. So with that, I'll go to you.
Thank you. Application A1924-PC, matter of the lands legally known as Plan 32, Lot 126, New Plan 791 in the city of Port Colborne, located in the second density residential R2 zone. Recommended that application be granted for the following reasons. One, the applications are minor in nature. Two, they are appropriate for the development of the site. Three, they are desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. And four, they are desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder to that? Gary? Questions or comments? All those in favor? That'll be carried. Thank you. There is a 20-day waiting period, but following that, if there's no appeals, you're good to go.
Just like to say thank you.
Thank you. And Madam Secretary, the next application, whenever you're ready, please.
Our next application is minor variance application 82624PC for the lands municipally known as 1196 Chippewa Road, located in the agricultural and agricultural residential zones, as established in the zoning bylaw. The owners, Steve and Dana Kozelch, are requesting relief for the provisions of the zoning bylaw to permit the increase in lot coverage of an accessory structure, notwithstanding the following: that the lot coverage of an accessory building be 1.3%, whereas a maximum of 1% in an agricultural zone is required. Given the information in the recommendation report, planning staff recommend application 82624PC be granted, as the application is minor in nature, it is appropriate for the development of the site, is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, and is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan. That concludes correspondence for this application.
Thank you. Is the applicant or the agent here for the applicant? Again, same routine, please. There's a little red button in the middle of that gray bar. Very good. Is there anything further you'd like to add?
I'm Steve Zelch, 1196 Chippewa Road in Port Colborne. I'm just asking for permission for the minor variance for a bigger garage.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? The only I guess I'm the only one with questions today. The only question I have, based on the sketch that was provided and conducting a site visit, how are you going to access this building?
It'll be through the side yard. I do have access through the between my garage and my fence.
Okay.
The existing garage of the house that's built onto the house up
Right.
front, and then there's a laneway, like not quite a laneway, but going through that way.
Okay. Because I guess I noticed when I was out there, there's a trailer that's parked
Yeah,
on that
that's,
neighboring.
That's my trailer, yeah.
Okay. And you have permission to
Yep.
park?
Yeah.
Because it looks like that primarily you've been accessing
That's
through
the way
there.
I've been accessing it all the time,
And,
yeah.
and I just wanted to make sure there was another way to get there
Yeah.
that, you know, in 75
Yep.
years from now, when you
Yeah.
sell the property,
Yeah.
someone will
Yeah.
still be able to get to
So
it.
basically, it's true, when you go into the driveway, you'll see the gravel beside the garage, basically, and there's a gate there, so basically right through there.
Okay, very good. That's all that I had. If no one else is going to, any questions? Is there any members of the public that wish to speak to this application? Not seeing any. So with that, Gary?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. With respect to application A2624-PC, and in the matter of the lands legally known as Part Lot 20, Concession 3, in the city of Port Colborne, located in the agricultural and agricultural residential zone. Planning staff recommend applications A2624-PC be granted for the following reasons. 1, the application is minor in nature. 2, is appropriate for the development of the site. 3, is desirable in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. 4, is desirable in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder to that? Angie? Questions or comments? All those in favor? That'll be carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Madam Secretary, the next series of applications, please.
Our next applications tonight are consent application B1624PC and its 2 accompanying minor variance applications A2924PC and A3024PC. The subject lands are municipally known as 607 Barrack Road, located in the first density residential zone. In application B1624PC, the agent Martin Perrin, on behalf of the owner Lucia Maria Pinelli, are requesting the committee's consent to sever for the purpose of creating a new lot. The subject parcels are shown as parts 1 and 2 in the proposed sketch, where part 1 is to be retained for an existing residential use and part 2 is to be severed for a future use. In application 82924PC, the agent and their client are requesting for relief for the provisions of the zoning bylaw to permit for the creation of a new building lot notwithstanding the following. That the minimum of lot frontage of 12 meters be permitted, where a minimum of 15 meters is required. In the application A3024PC, the agent and their client are requesting for relief from the provisions of the zoning bylaw to permit the creation of a new building lot notwithstanding the following. That a minimum of lot frontage of 13.47 meters be permitted, where a minimum of 15 meters is required. Given the information in the recommendation report, planning staff recommends application A2924PC and A3024PC be granted, as the application is minor in nature, it is appropriate for the development of the site, is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, and is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan. Given the recommendation reports, planning staff also recommend that the respective consent application be granted, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report dated December 6, 2024. This report can be requested for viewing by the public, if desired, through the planning staff. That concludes correspondence for these applications.
Thank you. Is the applicant or the agent for the applicant here this evening for that one? Thank you. Is there anything, just the little red button in the middle of that gray bar?
Martin Perrin, agent for the applicant.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant? Not seeing any here. I do have a couple, again. Per the sketch that was provided, there appears to be a concrete tank on the westerly boundary beside the existing dwelling. Staff advised me that it's probably from an old septic tank or something to that nature. Is it
Yes,
still?
it's from a decommissioned septic tank.
Okay. And based on the sketches that are provided, it looks like it actually extends onto the neighboring property. Is that a fair statement?
That would be correct, yes.
Okay. Because one of the concerns that I would have is leaving that, because it would seem primarily for your dwelling, but it extends onto the neighboring property, that I'd consider adding a condition to have that removed prior to the severance going through. I don't know how big of a deal it'd be to have it dug out, but it's just because it extends beyond the property boundary, it'd be better if it was just clear on that side and not impeding on the neighboring property.
Understood. I'd have to speak with the owner of the property to the west as well.
Yeah, okay.
to
that's
get
fine.
his consent to allow us to do that.
Yep, very good. The other question that I have had to do with the rear yard setback, and again, staff has, based on the information they have, assure me that you have the minimum rear yard setback. I noticed on the drawings that were provided, I'm assuming you had a surveyor conduct it. There's a name on the sketch. But there's no, on that lower addition, there's no distance from the back corner to the back property boundary, and it looks like it'd be very close. I believe the minimum setback is 7 meters.
Minimum is 7, and currently it is set back 7.041 meters.
Okay, it's just that, like I say, it's not
It's
shown.
it's right on the edge.
Right, okay. Because, like I said, I just wanted to make sure that there is no issues with the rear yard setback as well.
No.
And then finally, the last question I have, again, by visiting the property, the driveway that's currently accessing the property appears now will be on parcel 2.
Yes,
I think the staff report makes a comment about you'll need an extra driveway entrance for the retained parcel coming off to make sure that you have complete access on parcel 1. Is at this point the shed that's on parcel 2, there's no plan to tear it down, or are you going to utilize it for the other one, or?
at this particular point, there has been some discussion on tearing it down,
Okay,
but we have not set a definitive date for that.
very good. I don't think there's an issue with it being there. It meets all the setbacks and everything else, but I was just curious about that. Because it also looks like the driveway used to go around into the back. It looks like the existing tenants or people that are living there are parking in the front. I don't know if they're currently parking around in the back as well or not.
At one point, the stone did extend around to the back, but as of last year, it was covered over
Okay.
with soil, so it's all green now.
Ah, okay.
Or that portion essentially from the existing front of the existing house,
Right. Okay.
where the deck is, to the back, it's all green now, so.
Okay, very good. Like I said, I didn't walk all the way to the back of the property, but I think that's all the questions that I have at this time. If no one else has anything, Eric.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I guess the point you made about the shed, I guess I do have some concerns regarding the shed remaining because it's an encumbrance on the new parcel. Typically, they should be free and clear of encumbrances. So I'm just, if you're not sure whether or not it's going to be demolished, I'd recommend maybe entering into a development agreement that the shed be removed or demolished within 1 year, so that gives them an opportunity to get it off the property if they want to keep it or demolish it.
Very good, thank you. Are you going to make that a proposal to add to the?
The question would also arise, what if the new prospective owner of the new lot wanted to keep the shed?
So, through you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if there is an agreement of purchase and sale with this. Is there any sort of? I guess my issue is there could be a prospective buyer, but there's no way to make sure, like if that falls through, that shed then stays there, and there's still a shed there for the potential new buyer if the buyer you stated, the agreement were to fall through. So I guess my issue is it should be removed or replaced unless there's staff have some type of alternative agreement.
Through the chair to the committee member, the alternative would be to add it as another condition. I don't know that it needs to be done through a development agreement specifically. If we make it a condition that they, remove the shed from the parcel before the severance can be, finalized, we can ensure it happens that way instead of, going down the development agreement route.
Very good, Gary, do you have a question?
Actually, that was my question or thought, that we would do it as a condition rather than a development agreement.
Very good. David?
Could it not be taken care of through an agreement of purchase and sale? If a purchaser wants the property and doesn't want the shed, condition of sale would be tear the shed down. If they want the shed, leave it. We're making a decision on something that somebody may want when they buy the property. Why not let a prospective purchaser make that decision themselves? And if you don't want it, put it as a condition that you take the shed down before I take possession of the property. That would be the simplest way to let a prospective buyer have done to it what they want. They can keep it, they can have you get rid of it at the time, but to be presumptive to say that take the shed down for no reason when somebody might want it, let them take care of it through purchase and sale.
Just to staff, you can have a shed on a vacant lot, correct? As long as it's not a dwelling unit?
Through the chair, to the chair, it's a little bit complicated. If there were a vacant lot and someone wanted to build a shed and only a shed, that would not be permitted. But if there's a severance granted and there's already a shed on the property, and the severance was legally granted, that would kind of qualify as legal non-conforming in my opinion. So.
I don't know if that helps you with your concern or your concern.
Just, yeah, okay. Through you, Chair. So if I have a vacant property, I can't build a shed on my property to store anything in it, even though it's my property?
Through the chair to the committee member, if there are certain provisions in the zoning that if you, for example, if you were in the process of building a house, if you wanted to build a garage first or a shed first to store construction materials to aid in building your house, you can enter into a development agreement with the city to allow that situation to happen. So we have some very, very specific circumstances where it would be permitted, but in general, you can't build just a shed because it would be considered an accessory use. That accessory use needs to be accessory to something. There needs to be a primary use of the property established, whether it be a dwelling or an agricultural building or what have you. There has to be a primary use before there can be an accessory, if that makes sense.
So that would only pertain to residential lots?
Agricultural lots can fall under that as well, yeah.
So if I had a farm, I couldn't build a barn without having a house on it?
We actually ran into this recently. So you can build a barn if there's already, if you need the barn to store tools to aid in your agricultural use. So if you're growing crops and you need the barn to store tools to grow the crops, that's permitted. Yeah.
Strange, but okay. So I would still like to see this be done by an agreement of purchase and sale and let them take care of it instead of trying to figure something out prior to. That's my thought.
Gary?
Well, to follow up on Member Elliott's comment, really, if you look at, like, the only one I remember that got through the bylaw, we all know where the reap house is. If you look in behind there, there's just a garage there. And the person who did that was the beginnings of, you can't do that anymore. And so at the end of the day, if you stay silent on this, and it's not large enough to be considered a garage, and there's no complaint, then it just sits there. And you don't have to do a purchase and sale agreement because you just buy the land. It's got this on it. It's not an infraction unless noted or reported. Not that we want to set a precedent to leave things like that, but I guess what I'm saying is, following up with what you said, I don't know that you need to do anything. I really don't. It's there. If it's non-conforming because it's big enough, then it's there. If it's small enough, it's just a shed, and nobody's saying anything, and the buyer can do what he wants with it without any kind of agreement, in my view. Not sure if planning, how they see that.
To the chair, to the committee, I'm just kind of thinking out loud at this point. Another option might be to, instead of having, the agreement and purchase of sale, do that. I don't know if there's already a prospective buyer. No. Because one option would be to include a condition that the shed be removed, or, an affidavit be submitted saying, the buyer is interested. If there were a prospective buyer, you can kind of word it in a certain way like that. But I leave that up to the committee, whatever you wish.
Any other questions, comments? Eric?
I guess in my experience with other municipalities, it's always a standard condition that these types of accessory structures be demolished on newly created parcels. I don't have the Planning Act right in front of me as to where this may be or why that is, but I'm pretty sure there's some type of reason for that. So I would rely on staff in that regard, although I'm kind of looking at it now to see if I can find anything. But I think it has to do with encumbrance on the property. So I'll leave it to the...
Can you give me a minute to discuss with the applicant?
Sure.
Thank you.
And while you're doing that, is there any members of the public that wish to speak to this particular application? Not seeing any. So with that, I don't know if any other committee members have any further comments to put forward. I tend to agree with you that it's the same. I think we had an application a few months ago when we made a new lot and the frontage changed, and now you've made it non-conforming as opposed to being legally non-conforming prior to the change. So now you're making it non-conforming by having the accessory dwelling there on the lot by itself. And I see the applicant's back again, so.
We'll tear it down. If push comes to shove, we'll tear it down, and Mrs. Pinelli has no objection to that.
Okay. So with that, there is no other members of the public wishing to speak to this. Eric, did you want to move it with the conditions, or I can move it with the conditions? I was trying to save the long ones for good ones, but okay. I can move it. I can move it. And I'm going to do them. I'll do the B one first, just because there's the added conditions. That application B1624 PC, legally known as Concession 3, Part Lot 31, Registered Plan 59R 17017, Part 2, formerly in the municipality of Humberston, currently in the city of Port Colborne, located on the first density R1 zone. That planning staff recommended and will continue to committee's recommendation is to grant application B1624, subject to the conditions noted in the staff report. In addition, adding condition 7, that the removal of the decommissioned septic tank be removed, and number 8, that the removal of the existing shed on parcel 2 also be removed. Can I get a seconder to that? Gary, questions or comments? Gary?
Did you need to go through the rest for the following reasons?
Oh, yes, sorry. For the following reasons, that the applicant is consistent with provincial policy statement, the Niagara official plan, City of Port Colborne official plan, and will comply with the provisions of zoning bylaws 75/30/18 as amended, provided the concurrent minor variance applications are approved. Sorry, with that amendment and motion. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? That'll be carried. And we'll just go back to the 2 minor variances, 29 and 30, correct? So application A2924 PC and A3024 PC. Property is legally known as Concession 3, Part Lot 31, Registered Plan 59R 17017, Part 2, formerly in the municipality of Humberston, currently in the city of Port Colborne, located on the first density residential zone. That the applications A2924 PC and A3024 PC be granted for the following reasons: that they are both minor in nature, they are both appropriate for the development of the site, both are desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, and 4 is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan. Seconder, Eric, questions or comments? All those in favor? That'll be carried. Thank you. And Madam Secretary, the last property we'll be talking about this evening.
Our last applications for tonight are consent applications B1724 PC, B1824 PC, B1924 PC, and it's a 2 accompanying minor variance applications, A3124 PC and A3224 PC. The subject lands are municipally known as 4838 Shirkston Road, located in the Hamlet Residential Zone. In the applications B1724 PC, B1824 PC, and B1924 PC, the agent Urban Belief Incorporated, on behalf of the owner Hassan Korabi, are requesting the committee's consent to sever for the purpose of creating a new residential lot. The subject parcels are shown as parts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the proposed sketch, where part 5 is to be retained for an existing agricultural use, and parts 1, 2, 3, and 4 are to be severed for a future use. In applications A3124 PC, the agent and their client are requesting for relief from the provisions of the zoning bylaw to permit the creation of a new residential lot, notwithstanding the following: that the minimum lot frontage of 30.74 meters be permitted, where a minimum lot frontage of 45 meters is required. In application A3224 PC, the agent and their client are requesting for relief from the provisions of the zoning bylaw to permit the creation of a new residential lot, notwithstanding the following: that the minimum lot frontage of 30.74 meters be permitted, where a minimum lot frontage of 45 meters is required. Given the information in the recommendation report, planning staff recommends application A3124 PC and A3224 PC be granted, as the application is minor in nature, they are appropriate in development of the site, they are desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, and they are desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan. Given the recommendation reports, planning staff also recommend that the respective consent applications be granted, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report dated December 6, 2024. This report can be requested for reviewing by the public if desired through the planning staff. That concludes correspondence for these applications.
Thank you. Is the applicant or the agent for the applicant here this evening?
Hi, my name is Hassan Korabi.
Yep.
I'm one of the owners. I do have other partners as well.
Okay. Is there anything further you'd like to add at this time?
I'm sorry?
Anything further you'd like to add at this time?
No.
Okay, very good. Any questions of the applicant this evening? Eric.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So I understand that there's an access easement that's, there's an easement that's going to be to Shirkston.
To arrest them should they come to Canada. Will you allow that to happen, or will you step in to prevent an arrest?
For Shirkston Road, there's an access easement that's being put there that's about 6 point. I guess, okay, so my concern is the purpose of that easement is so that farm equipment can get to the agricultural parcel, correct? Sure. I guess my concern is whether or not that access easement is wide enough for large, like a harvester or whatnot that goes on to that. So I'm just wondering whether planning staff or yourself can comment to that. Sorry, I wasn't sure if you wanted me to answer the question. 6
6.3 meters. It's about 20 feet. It's plenty of space, and I did try to request access from Highway 3, but MTO didn't allow that, so I had no other option.
Anything further? You good? No. Okay. Any other questions? The only question I have is on the, I'm going to say retained portion, not really the retained, part one, where the house, the existing dwelling is. Is the intent to demolish that dwelling or refurbish or rebuild or renovate that dwelling?
Part one.
Sorry, just your microphone there, please.
Sorry.
You can leave it on. You don't have to keep shutting it up. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So yes, we had few versions of this sketch to divide the land without and then the property line would have been right in the middle of that house. The house was built in 1869. So our plan is to renovate that place and install a new septic tank and bring it back to its old glory.
Very good. Because I did say when I pulled in, it looked like it's got a fairly new roof on it. I don't know how long ago it was, but it doesn't look like it's definitely not the original roof. But yes, it's a.
It is a shingled roof, like asphalt shingles. So probably it was redone by the previous owner. We only took over a couple of years ago, so we're working on just renovating that place later on and working with it.
Yeah, it'd be a great old house if you can do that. It's a nice property. That's all the questions that I really have. I guess my question was going to be is if you were planning to demolish it. I think you already answered it, that you'd end up moving the property line over and then kind of spreading them out a little bit more, which is fine. But if the plan is to renovate that, that's excellent from my standpoint. So anyone else got any questions? Question?
Not really dealing with the applications, but when you're talking about renovating the house, driving up to it, will all that thick underbrush be cleared away and make your neighbors happy? Because it is extremely overgrown, and I thought that the house was going to be torn down. It just looked like it was abandoned, and the best way to rehabilitate it would be to knock it down. Considering the lot itself, how overgrown it is, I just thought, you're just going to clean up everything and knock it right down. But if you're going to rehabilitate it, the house, yeah, I know. That's like, I looked at it and it was like, oh. But I'm assuming that the neighbors on Empire Road would probably really appreciate all that underbrush cleaned up and moved away. Other than that, I don't have a problem with it. I just looked at from that perspective on what the neighbors must think of the lot right now. So that's it.
We not this past summer, the summer of last year, I spent close to $17,000 just to clear as much as I can and whatnot. So I'm not sure how recently you've been. You went there. This is all from last summer until now. So every time I need to bring a crew and whatnot, it's a full crew, and so it does cost money, and we're just focusing on doing the studies that we got requested to do, and we're hoping just to get to the finish line so we can maybe just sell one part and just take the money and then inject it into the project and move on. So it's coming.
Very good. Any other questions? Do you have any questions? Is there any members of the public that wish to speak to this application this evening? Not seeing any. So with that, does anyone got a recommendation? Just the highlighted portions. All right. I don't know.
we want to do both?
You can do all 5 if you like.
Okay, let me go back one. So we start with 17, 18, 19, and then the last 2. So we're just gonna do the highlighted? We're gonna do them all in book.
Oh, yes, just before you go, ma'am, did you have something you wanted to say to this application? Sure. If you could, you can come up to the podium on the side, sir, if you could just kind of step aside a little bit, and just at the podium, name and address for the record, and any comments that you might have.
These are
Sorry.
this
Up,
is the
up,
4838.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
The microphone's already on, so the floor is yours.
Excellent. Thank you. I apologize for being late. Committee chair and members, my name is Diane Grenier, and I am the owner of the next door property, 4750. I am to the east. The easement will run directly along from the sketches that I've seen and the inquiries that I've already made. The easement that is proposed will be running directly along my property line. And I understand that may or may not be developed as an actual driveway because it provides access to the agricultural portion of that severance. My concerns are any houses that are built will be in fairly close proximity to my property, and I have horses, and I want there to be something that will never bar my ability to have my horses because there's a residential house and they might not like horses. So that's a grave concern of mine because that's the purpose why I have a farm. And that I've begun to fence that line this summer. I started at the motel end, but I do intend to fence that and actually have horses that may be right up to that easement line. So I don't know if something can be added to the conditions or the title when those lots are transferred that they acknowledge or that there's not going to be any issues with respect to the use of the agricultural land, particularly having animals there. And I have some concerns about, I find it's a fairly cramped area, right, to put in another 2 driveways for those 2 houses. And that easement, I guess, is of grave most concern to me, that if it's not opened immediately, it's just there as a potential for the future, then that might not create the difficulties that I'm concerned with, because part 3, it's hard to say where they're going to put the house, right? So that would be my main concern that I would like to have addressed. That's my immediate concerns.
So, if I might, and I may be speaking out of turn here, but with regards to that easement on part 4, so because it's an easement in perpetuity, nothing can be built on.
I can't hear you. I'm a bit hard of hearing.
So that the easement, that part 4 that's in the sketch, because it's an easement in perpetuity to the property at the back, nothing can be built on there. Anyway, so you already get about a 6-meter buffer
right
on the side yard, where typically you'd only have, I'm not sure what it is out there, 1.5 meters. With regards to those other properties, they have a different zoning than agricultural already. So he's not like he's applying for a zoning change. So the unfortunate part is whether there's 1 lot, 3 lots, unfortunately, whoever applies for a building permit, does the MDS formula kick in when you have that hamlet residential designation versus agriculture? I'm not too sure. Staff can maybe speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, through the chair to the committee and to the public here. So when it comes to MDS, MDS actually does not apply to settlement areas, and this hamlet, because it's technically a settlement area, the subject property, 4838 Shirkson Road, the portions proposed to be severed here, MDS does not apply to those. MDS only applies to the agricultural lands just outside of that property.
So to that point, the only thing I can assume is that if you see a house being built there and it's for sale, make sure your house or your horses are running by so they know there's horses there, and they see that it's an active farm. Because, like I say, the property to the back is agricultural. I don't know if all of your property is. A portion may be, and a portion of the back may be just agriculture. I'm not sure. You might be in that hamlet residential area as well, like at least the front portion that's on to Shirkston, so I'm not too sure there. But that's really the only, there is no remedy that this committee could put there for that purpose because it's already covered under the zoning bylaw, if that makes sense.
Okay, so just to clarify, this is an application to sever. It is. So the minor variance, of course, deals with the egress, the width that they would need normally for a driveway is being reduced for their two driveways, but those are all going to be severances, which without the severances, they wouldn't have a house there. Well, I suppose they might, but most likely not, without the severance.
So without the severance and without this whole process here,
Yes.
they could probably go and build a house within 2 meters of the property line or whatever the zoning permits for a side yard, because that front portion, parts 1, 2, 3, and 4 are zoned hamlet residential already.
So they would.
So they could
have-
theoretically build a house, whatever the minimum distance separation is towards your property. This, with the buffer, at least gives you an extra 6 meters, where typically I think it's only 3 meters, meter and a half. I don't know the exact, what the zoning bylaw is for hamlet residential for a side yard, but they could be a lot closer than they would be with this restriction. So if anything, this helps you by having them have to build farther back from your side of the property.
Okay, and so you're saying that the current zoning bylaw would permit more than one residence on that property without a severance?
Not on the same property, they would need the severance to build multiples, yes.
Right, okay, so without the severance, they couldn't build another house?
Well, they could demolish that one and move it over.
They could demolish that one?
100%.
With a building permit situation?
Correct.
So I would like to be recorded as this concern, because in the future, 2 or 5 years from now, whenever that may happen, then my concerns were recorded, and I'll certainly want to rely on them if I ran into any sort of difficulty with the new neighbors.
Yeah, noted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have something you wanted to add, or? Okay, Dave.
I will try to help you if I can. Staff can offer a comment too. When you move or build into an agricultural area that permits horses, cows, pigs, whatever it may be, your piece of land comes with the sights, sounds, and smells of living in the country. You have horses, they were there. They don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything different. If people don't want the sights, sounds, and smells of horses next door, don't move there. This has come up, and I followed it quite intently in Niagara-on-the-Lake. When people from out of town move into an agricultural area with grapes and cows and bird bangers, it's part of the scenery. You get that for nothing. There's no extra charge. So continue on with your horse farm, and you don't have to worry about anything. You have been there and are existing and will continue to exist. Keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate your comments because button. Got it. Technology, you know. I'm a horse farmer. Not really. I appreciate those comments, and because when you see agricultural, so you see land designated as agricultural, it doesn't necessarily tell a person what really is going on. So they may think, oh, they're growing crops, they're growing weeds, they're growing something, as opposed to actively having farm animals. And that's where the difference is. I'm pretty, frequently out there with my horses, so they will be well seen. But I'll make a point of going over and having a chat and just confirming that, hey, there's horses. And yeah, sometimes if the wind's blowing that way, you'll know there's horses. So thank you.
Thank you. So with that, Dave, I think you were going to have a... Oh, sorry, Eric, another question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just looking through the conditions, and I noticed that they got the region recommended and staff putting in that stage 1 archaeological assessment be prepared. To the applicant, have you started any of the work for the stage 1 archaeological?
No, I did not, but I saw this condition when the staff sent it to me earlier this week. So I did reach out to my planner, to my I just have some few names for consultants to do this.
Okay, I guess through Mr. Chair, my concern with this one is it's the right condition. It's just a matter of how long it takes the ministry to review these archaeological. You have 2 years to clear the conditions of consent, and the fact that you haven't even started now can be a little bit concerning, because it takes a very long time to do. Like, it's the winter now, so you're not even going to get field work done probably till spring.
Okay.
And then it takes a report to be done, and then it has to go to the ministry for approval, which can take a year or more. So
Okay.
I'm just wondering if maybe we can impose a little amendment to that condition, stating that in the event staff can enter into an agreement that goes on title that before building permit, an archaeological clearance letter must be provided. Something along those lines.
The only concern to that would be is they do an archaeological assessment, they've entered into this agreement, and you can't build on it because, it's a gravesite or whatever. And now you already have the severed lot that you can't reverse back. And I think that's the purpose of putting it on there first. But certainly archaeological assessments is not my forte. Stage 1 I thought is a very simple, dig a few holes, find no remnants of anything, and it's a pretty quick and easy thing. I would agree if it turns into something more, then it goes to a stage 2, a stage 3, and blah, blah, blah. You could be there for a long period of time, but I didn't think a stage 1 took that long, but it's not my area of expertise either. But
Just the stage 1 is just essentially like a desk. They just look at it, and then stage 2 is where is the field work component. Yeah, so they do the dig. There's not really much to it, but it can take a while because of the conditions and just the ministry. So I ran into this issue before, and one of the only alternatives you can do, because the severance will lapse, and then is instead of them coming back here and reapplying to go through this whole process again, is to make it a condition that it go on the land for building permit. Sorry, prior to building permit.
okay. I don't have a concern either way, but I'll just go back to my first comment that if it's important, it should be done before. It should get done before. But anyway, Angie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I would agree with what Member Beauregard has proposed, but I would put it to the owners and say, is this something that you're willing to do? Because you're right, it could be a problem. You now have severed packages and find out that there's an issue. But other than that, though, it is going to be a long time. We know what those things take. So if the owner is willing to go ahead with the severance and we just add this as part of the permit process later, that would make sense.
Yeah, like I said, I don't really have one way or the other. I just the fact that this house was built in the 1800s, I just hope there was no family plot somewhere on that property.
The area,
assuming that's what the stage 1 would at least initially determine. But it's also been a residence fairly recently. I don't think it's been vacant that long. I would assume someone would have known it already, but anyway, Eric, and then I'll come back.
So an alternative, I mean, the applicant could always come back and ask for a change of conditions. So in the event they realize that this isn't going to be done in a quick, efficient manner, then they could always come back at a lower fee than reapplying and maybe ask for something like this. So I think that we could just leave it as is and just have that as an understanding to the applicant.
I like that proposal. You good with that one? Okay. So do you understand what he was suggesting?
Yeah. I had a discussion with my architect about this just yesterday, and it was one of the things I was going to bring up today, but I'm like, we decided to do the archaeological study now for all the lots. It would be like just in one report and one cheaper, because we're rather than trying to sell them and then have a condition on the sale and all of this stuff and whatnot, and then delaying the closing and all of these things. So we'll be jumping on this as soon as we can, and we'll be moving forward with it.
Okay, and like I say, just keep in mind that there is an option that if you're getting close to that 2-year period and you're almost to the finish line, there is an ability to come back and have a condition modified by the committee. I think there's a slight fee for it, but if worst case, you'd have that option.
Okay.
Okay. So with that, no other questions? Your update.
Do the reading?
Do the reading.
Okay, so let's go back. Okay. Application B17-24-PC, and in the matter of the lands legally known as Part Lot 5, Concession 1 in the city of Port Colborne, located in the Hamlet Residential HR Zone. Application B17-24-PC be granted, subject to all of the following conditions listed. There's too many to read. The application is consistent with the provincial planning statement, the Niagara official plan, City of Port Colborne official plan, and will comply with the provisions of zoning bylaw 6575/30/18 as amended. And in the matter of application B18-24-PC, in the matter of the lands legally known as Part Lot 5, Concession 1 in the City of Port Colborne, located in the Hamlet Residential HR Zone, application B18-24-PC be granted, subject to the following conditions listed below. There are 10 of them. The application is consistent with the provincial planning statement, the Niagara official plan, City of Port Colborne official plan, and will comply with the provisions of zoning bylaw 6575/30/18 as amended, provided the concurrent minor variance application is approved. Application B19-24-PC. In the matter of the lands legally known as Part Lot 5, Concession 1 in the City of Port Colborne, located in the Hamlet Residential HR Zone, application B19-24-PC be granted, subject to the following conditions, of which there are 10 again. For the following reasons, the application is consistent with the provincial planning statement, the Niagara official plan, City of Port Colborne official plan, and will comply with the provisions of zoning bylaw 6575/30/18 as amended, provided the concurrent minor variance application is approved. Application A31-24-PC, in the matter of the lands legally known as Part Lot 5, Concession 1 in the City of Port Colborne, located in the Hamlet Residential HR Zone, application A31-24-PC be granted for the subject to the following conditions. Application is minor in nature. 2 is appropriate for the development site. 3 is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of zoning bylaw. 4 is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan. Application A32-24-PC, and in the matter of the lands legally known as Part Lot 5, Concession 1 in the City of Port Colborne, located in the Hamlet Residential HR Zone. Planning staff recommend application A32-24-PC be granted for the following reasons. It is minor in nature. 2, it is appropriate for the development of the site. 3, it is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. And 4, it is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan.
Thank you.
That's it.
Can I get a seconder to that? Gary? Questions or comments? All in favor? That'll be carried. Thank you. There's a waiting period of 20 days, but other than that, you should be able to plug along, and I look forward to seeing that nice old house restored to its
All right, cool.
former glory.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
I see we have an item for under other business. We did that last month, all right? Did we not?
No, so, can I explain?
Yeah, go ahead.
Through the chair to the chair, when I was watching the minutes back to record it for the meeting this time, we had discussed about it, but it was never officially moved into a second
Oh, wow.
underneath you guys. Member Beauregard had posed a question and you guys got a little distracted.
Huh.
So we never actually motioned to move it, unfortunately. But
All right.
I figured that we would put it back on the agenda just to discuss it and
Make it
maybe
official.
move and conclude it this time.
All right, so I get a mover to move our schedule. Angie, seconder. Eric? I think it was him that disturbed us last time.
That's
so
okay.
All those in favor? That'd be carried. There you go. And then can I get a mover and a seconder of the November 13th minutes? Gary, over on that side. I'll second it. All those in favor of the minutes? That'll be carried. And with that, we stand adjourned. Thank you.